Every time you perform these behaviors publicly, you announce weakness, invite predators, and forfeit rank. Morality becomes camouflage, restraint becomes exposure, and survival favors the silent. Public space is not neutral. It never was. You were trained to believe it is a shared environment governed by rules, fairness, and mutual restraint. That belief is a liability. The moment you step into public view, you enter a selection arena where rank is assessed instantly and continuously. There are no pauses. There is no benefit of the doubt. Every public environment operates like a silent battlefield. No uniforms, no declared sides, only observers, competitors, predators, and opportunists. Most people walk into this space thinking behavior is judged morally. It is not. It is judged strategically. What you display is not interpreted as good or bad, but as usable or exploitable. Public behavior is information. Information is leverage. You are being read before you speak. Posture, timing, emotional leakage, restraint, or the absence of it, these are processed faster than language. The crowd does not need to agree with you. It only needs to place you. Once placed, you are managed accordingly. This is where most men fail. They assume public life rewards authenticity. It punishes it. Authenticity is uncontrolled signal emission, and uncontrolled signals attract correction. Correction does not arrive as advice. It arrives as disrespect, exclusion, manipulation, or quiet obstruction. Power never announces itself. Weakness does. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Visibility multiplies consequences. In private, mistakes are forgiven. In public, they are archived. The public sphere has memory. It does not forget who broke frame, who over-explained, who sought approval, who reacted emotionally. Those impressions fossilize into reputation, and reputation dictates how much resistance you will face later. Public space is hierarchical by default, even in places that claim equality, especially there. When hierarchy is denied openly, it becomes enforced covertly. Men compete without admitting they are competing. That makes the arena more dangerous, not less. You are not being evaluated on intention. You are being evaluated on control. The battlefield metaphor matters because it removes sentiment. On a battlefield, you do not express yourself. You do not reveal uncertainty. You do not seek validation. You minimize exposure. You conserve energy. You observe more than you act. You understand that being seen is not the same as being known, and that being known is often fatal. Most public mistakes are not mistakes at all. They are violations of concealment, emotional transparency, moral signaling, over-participation. Each one leaks position. Each one tells others how you can be pressured. The battlefield rewards opacity. Silence is not absence, it is armor. Public settings compress time. You do not get long explanations. First impressions harden into permanent assumptions. The man who laughs too loudly is filed as unserious. The man who explains himself is filed as insecure. The man who reacts is filed as controllable. None of this is debated. It is simply accepted and acted upon. You may believe you are being judged by individuals. You are not. You are being judged by systems. Social systems optimize for predictability and control. Anything unpredictable is neutralized. Anything overly expressive is guided, softened, or sidelined. This is why morality becomes camouflage for weakness in public. The man who insists on fairness often lacks leverage. The man who demands transparency often has nothing to protect. The man who seeks harmony often fears conflict. These traits are not evil. They are just unsafe when displayed openly. Public space does not reward virtue. It rewards utility. Understanding this lens shift is non-negotiable. Until you see public life as a competitive environment rather than a communal one, you will continue leaking advantage. You will mistake politeness for safety. You will mistake attention for respect. You will mistake tolerance for acceptance. On a battlefield, survival precedes expression. Rank precedes comfort. Control precedes honesty. Once you accept that public space is hostile by design, the rest becomes obvious. Some behaviors cannot be afforded. Some signals must never be displayed. Not because they are immoral, but because they are expensive. Public environments operate on a signal economy. Nothing you do is neutral. Every movement, pause, reaction, and disclosure emits data. That data is instantly priced. High-value signals increase your margin of safety. Low-value signals make you affordable to exploit. Most men believe power comes from action. In public, power comes from signal control. You are not evaluated by what you say you believe, but by what your behavior implies you cannot afford to lose. Signals reveal dependency. Dependency reveals leverage. Leverage invites pressure. This is the mechanism beneath every social hierarchy. Weakness is not defined by lack of strength. It is defined by lack of containment. A man who cannot contain emotion, opinion, or impulse is signaling that he can be provoked, redirected, or drained. He is advertising entry points. Public signals fall into two categories: controlled emissions and involuntary leaks. Controlled emissions are deliberate. They are minimal. They are timed. Involuntary leaks happen when internal pressure exceeds discipline. Those leaks are what predators watch for. Emotion is the most expensive leak. Anger tells others where your boundaries are. Excitement tells them what you crave. Defensiveness tells them where you are uncertain. Humor, when used compulsively, tells them you seek approval. Each reaction maps your internal terrain for anyone paying attention. And many are paying attention. The danger is not that someone disagrees with you. The danger is that someone now knows how to move you. Once that knowledge exists, neutrality disappears. You are no longer an unknown variable. You are a known quantity. Machiavellian environments reward men who remain unreadable, not silent but selective, not cold but controlled. The difference is surgical. Silence without discipline looks weak. Discipline without silence looks arrogant. The optimal position is restrained visibility. This is why public overexposure is punished. The more you display, the more surface area you offer for manipulation. Public life favors men who reveal only what cannot be used against them, and often not even that. Social systems convert visible behavior into future expectations. If you react once, you will be expected to react again. If you explain once, you will be demanded to explain again. The first concession becomes a precedent. Precedents become obligations. Obligations erase leverage. This is the trap of being nice in public. Niceness is predictable. Predictability is exploitable. Once your pattern is known, you can be pressured with guilt, framed as inconsistent, or accused of deviation when you resist. The signal economy does not care about your intentions. It cares about efficiency. Which behaviors cost you status? Which behaviors grant others advantage? Which behaviors lower the price of pushing you? Observers do not need to hate you to use you. They only need information. This is why restraint is misinterpreted by the naive as insecurity. In reality, restraint is data denial. You are starving the system of exploitable inputs. You are increasing the cost of interference. You are forcing others to guess, and guessing is expensive. Men who dominate public spaces do so by reducing signal noise. They do less, say less, reveal less. Their stillness unsettles because it cannot be decoded easily. Uncertainty creates caution. Caution creates space. The average man fills silence to relieve his own discomfort. The strategic man uses silence to create discomfort in others. That discomfort shifts the power balance. The one who needs resolution first loses. Once you understand the signal economy, public behavior stops being emotional and becomes logistical. You are not expressing yourself. You are managing exposure. You are deciding what information enters circulation. And once information is withheld, leverage returns. The behaviors you must never display publicly are not sins. They are discounts. Each one lowers your perceived value and increases your manipulability. Eliminate the signals and the pressure disappears. Public weakness does not appear randomly. It appears in patterns, predictable ones. These patterns harden into archetypes, roles that men unknowingly play, each with a built-in failure point. Once you are placed into one, escape becomes costly. These are not personality types, they are exposure profiles. The explainer. This archetype cannot tolerate being misunderstood. When challenged publicly, he clarifies, justifies, contextualizes. He believes precision will restore authority. It does the opposite. Every explanation concedes that approval is needed. Observers learn that pressure produces compliance. The explainer is managed with questions, accusations, and demands for clarity. His words become a leash. The reactor. This man responds immediately. Facial expressions shift, tone sharpens, body language betrays agitation. He believes speed equals strength. In reality, speed reveals loss of control. The reactor teaches others exactly which buttons to press. Once discovered, those buttons will be tested for entertainment, for dominance, or for leverage. The moral broadcaster. He signals virtue loudly. He announces standards, fairness, intentions. He wants to be seen as principled. What he communicates instead is rigidity. Rigid men are predictable. Predictable men are cornered. The moral broadcaster can be trapped by his own stated values and forced into concessions without direct conflict. The entertainer. He fills silence with humor. He diffuses tension reflexively. He fears being disliked more than being disrespected. Laughter becomes his currency. Over time, he is tolerated but not feared, amused but not deferred to. When decisions are made, he is present but not consulted. The confessor. This archetype believes openness builds trust. He shares struggles, doubts, personal details in public spaces. He mistakes vulnerability for connection. What he creates is a record. That record does not disappear. It circulates. It is referenced indirectly. His weaknesses become context others silently factor into interactions. The pleaser. He adapts constantly. He agrees to avoid friction. He yields ground to maintain harmony. Each concession feels small. Cumulatively, they define him. The pleaser is easy to assign work to, easy to override, easy to ignore when it matters. His flexibility is interpreted as lack of spine. The over-visible striver. He performs ambition publicly. He announces goals, effort, hustle. He wants recognition in advance. This signals impatience and dependency on validation. Others learn he can be slowed by withholding acknowledgement or sped up with praise. His drive becomes externally regulated. Each archetype leaks the same thing: controllability. Public life sorts men quickly. These archetypes make sorting effortless. Once categorized, you are interacted with through that lens regardless of what you say later. Attempts to change perception often reinforce it because they confirm the original weakness. Machiavelli warned that reputation is shaped more by appearance than reality. These archetypes are appearances that calcify. They do not require malice from others. They require only observation. The danger is not playing one of these roles once. The danger is repeating the signal. Repetition turns behavior into identity. Identity becomes expectation. Expectation becomes confinement. Most men see these archetypes as social skills. They are not. They are exposure habits. Habits form patterns. Patterns attract pressure. Eliminating these behaviors is not about becoming antisocial. It is about becoming unreadable. You are not removing humanity. You are removing tells. Once these archetypes are recognized internally, suppression becomes possible. Suppression creates ambiguity. Ambiguity creates safety, and safety is the prerequisite for power. Transparency has never protected anyone with something to lose. History is not a story of the virtuous winning because they were understood. It is a record of the exposed being selected against, quietly, efficiently, and often legally. Every court, Empire, corporation, and street hierarchy confirms the same rule. What is visible becomes targetable. In royal courts, those who spoke freely were not admired for honesty. They were mapped. Their alliances were inferred. Their fears were catalogued. The man who complained openly signaled dissatisfaction. The man who defended himself signaled vulnerability. Neither survived proximity to power for long. Machiavelli observed that rulers fell not because they were cruel, but because they were predictable. Predictability invites coalitions. Coalitions remove threats. Transparency accelerates this process. The same logic applies outside palaces. Public squares, workplaces, social groups, they all operate with memory and incentives. When you reveal how you think, what you value, or what engages you, you provide tools. Tools are not judged morally. They are used. Human nature is not fair. It is adaptive. Consider how crowds behave. They do not attack the strongest or the weakest first. They attack the exposed, the one who reacts emotionally, the one who explains, the one who cannot disengage. Pressure seeks efficiency, not justice. This is why public humiliation works. It exploits visibility. Once a weakness is displayed in front of witnesses, it becomes communal knowledge. Even those who feel sympathy now know where the fracture is. Sympathy does not erase information. History's lesson is brutal. The moment you are understood, you are manageable. Revolutions did not fail because leaders lacked ideals. They failed because leaders became symbols, visible, legible, anticipated. Once a symbol is understood, it can be neutralized. The same applies to individuals in modern systems. Visibility without power is exposure. Exposure without control is elimination. Modern culture glorifies openness. This is not accidental. Open systems are easier to regulate. Transparent individuals are easier to guide. When everyone reveals everything, power concentrates in those who reveal nothing. Institutions encourage expression because expression feeds data. Data feeds prediction. Prediction enables control. The man who opts out of expression disrupts this chain. He becomes expensive to manage. This is why silence unsettles. Silence removes the raw material of manipulation. Without signals, others are forced to test. Testing costs time and risk. Many will choose easier targets. Look at any purge, political, corporate, social. Those removed first were not the most dangerous. They were the most visible, the ones who spoke carelessly, the ones who trusted the wrong audience, the ones who believed context would save them. Context never saves you. It disappears the moment power is involved. The men who survive hostile environments learn one principle early: never let the crowd know what moves you. Emotion in private can be strategic. Emotion in public is evidence. Machiavelli did not advocate cruelty for pleasure. He advocated concealment for survival. He understood that being seen clearly is rarely an advantage unless you already hold absolute power. Until then, opacity is protection. History does not reward the honest. It rewards the controlled. The difference between the fallen and the untouchable is rarely intelligence or morality. It is restraint. And restraint begins with refusing to display what can be used against you. Power in public is not built by adding behaviors. It is built by subtracting them. Every advantage discussed so far comes from removal, not performance. You do not gain control by doing more. You gain it by leaking less. This chapter is not about becoming impressive. It is about becoming expensive to manipulate. Strategic suppression begins with impulse delay. The first response is almost always the wrong one. Immediate reactions satisfy internal pressure but externalize weakness. Delay creates ambiguity. Ambiguity shifts pressure outward. The man who pauses forces others to reveal intent. Silence is the primary tool, not awkward silence, deliberate silence, the kind that does not seek rescue. Silence denies data. Without data, others must guess. Guessing increases their risk. Risk slows them down. Next is emotional compression. You do not eliminate emotion, you compress it. Emotion expressed publicly is emotion surrendered. Emotion retained privately can be converted into strategy. Anger becomes focus. Disgust becomes distance. Excitement becomes patience. Public calm is not apathy, it is containment. Then comes behavioral reduction. Fewer words, fewer explanations, fewer commitments. Each unnecessary word is a liability. Each unnecessary promise creates obligation. Each unnecessary clarification lowers perceived authority. Authority is assumed when it does not justify itself. Machiavellian control is quiet. It does not correct others publicly. It does not seek agreement. It allows misunderstandings to exist if correcting them costs leverage. Not every false assumption must be challenged. Some work in your favor. Public morality tempts men to display consistency. Strategic men display selectivity. You do not owe the same behavior to every audience. Context determines expression. Loyalty to a single public persona is inefficient. This is where most men resist. They fear being seen as inauthentic. That fear is a confession. They believe authenticity is currency. In public, it is debt. The more real you are, the more you can be used. Control also requires exit discipline, the ability to disengage without explanation, leaving conversations unfinished, allowing tension to remain unresolved. The man who can walk away without closure holds the frame. The one who seeks resolution first submits. Another critical suppression is moral signaling. You do not announce standards. You enforce them silently through access. Access is power. Withdrawal is punishment. Public lectures invite challenge. Quiet distance invites self-correction. Strategic suppression does not make you invisible. It makes you undefined. Undefined men are difficult to position. Difficult to position men are avoided or approached cautiously. Both outcomes increase safety. You are not becoming cold, you are becoming surgical. Surgeons do not apologize to tissue. They cut precisely and move on. This shift feels uncomfortable at first because it removes familiar rewards, validation, praise, emotional release. Those rewards were not free. They were bait. Once removed, pressure increases briefly, then dissipates. Predators lose interest when signals disappear. What replaces expression is posture, stillness, timing, minimal acknowledgement. These are not tricks. They are defaults of men who understand cost. Control is not aggressive, it is economical. Once suppression becomes habit, public space changes texture. Interactions short, probing decreases. Respect becomes passive rather than negotiated. You are no longer managed, you are worked around. That is power. What you have suppressed so far was not random behavior. It was an identity, a public-facing construct built to be accepted, understood, and safe. That identity must die. Not refined, not improved, eliminated. The old public self was designed for a world that no longer exists, or perhaps never did. A world where being good was enough, where being seen accurately protected you, where intentions mattered. Carrying that identity forward is not noble, it is negligent. Identity death is not emotional, it is procedural. You begin by severing attachment to how you are perceived. The need to be understood is the deepest vulnerability most men carry. It creates compulsion. Compulsion creates exposure. Once you stop needing correction, defense, or validation, an enormous amount of pressure disappears. This is the first death. The second death is moral exhibition. The old self wanted to be seen as fair, principled, reasonable. These are internal standards, not public announcements. Displaying them externally was a way to secure safety through approval. Approval never protected anyone with leverage at stake. You keep your standards, you bury their advertisement. The third death is emotional transparency. The old self believed expression was strength. It is not. Expression is discharge. Discharge relieves you and informs others. Control retains energy and denies information. Emotion becomes private fuel rather than public evidence. What replaces the old identity is not emptiness, it is sovereignty. Sovereignty is internal rule. Decisions are made without consultation. Reactions are optional. Access is conditional. You are not reactive, you are selective. You do not mirror energy, you impose pace. The new public self is quiet but not withdrawn, present but not participatory, observant rather than expressive. When it speaks, it does not fill space, it closes it. This identity does not chase clarity, it allows ambiguity. It does not rush to be liked, it allows distance. It does not correct disrespect publicly, it remembers. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more with their eyes than with their hands. The old self tried to shape judgment through explanation. The new self shapes judgment through absence. What is missing is often more influential than what is shown. Identity replacement feels like loss because it removes familiar feedback loops. There is less praise, fewer emotional exchanges, more silence. That silence is not emptiness, it is insulation. Over time, something shifts. Others adjust around you. Conversations become cautious. Expectations lower, demands soften. You are no longer pressured to perform emotionally. You are no longer invited into traps disguised as openness. The old self sought belonging. The new self commands space. This is not transformation for comfort. It is adaptation for survival. Men who fail to make this transition remain legible. Legible men are consumed slowly, politely, and without apology. Identity death is the price of operating above manipulation. Once complete, there is nothing left to display that can be used against you. Only actions, and actions, when chosen, carry weight. What you have removed can return, not loudly, quietly. Old habits do not attack from the front. They re-enter when you are tired, comfortable, or seeking relief. This is the final threat. The world is patient, it waits for leaks. Silence is not a phase, it is a permanent operating condition. The moment you treat it as a tactic rather than a standard, you begin negotiating with exposure again. Negotiation is how control erodes. The greatest danger after identity death is nostalgia, remembering how easy it was to speak freely, how light it felt to explain yourself, how human it seemed to be open. That ease was purchased with vulnerability. You were not relaxed, you were unguarded. Public environments never stop testing. They probe for reactivity, they introduce ambiguity, they misinterpret deliberately. Each test asks the same question: has he resumed leaking? Respond once, and the tests escalate. Sovereignty is maintained through consistency. Not loud consistency, but behavioral uniformity. Calm under provocation. Distance under curiosity. Minimalism under pressure. These are not performances. They are refusals. Refusals shape reality. You do not owe closure. You do not owe access. You do not owe explanation. These are myths sold to make systems run smoothly. Smooth systems benefit controllers, not operators. Machiavellian silence is not passive. It is active denial. Denial of information. Denial of emotional reward. Denial of leverage. When nothing is given, nothing can be taken. This is where elite separation occurs. Most men relapse. They crave interaction. They crave affirmation. They crave being known. These cravings are predictable and therefore exploitable. The few who resist become difficult to place. Difficult men are not attacked openly. They are worked around. Space opens. Pressure redirects. Influence accumulates quietly. The final warning is simple and non-negotiable. The moment you feel the urge to correct, justify, or reveal, stop. That urge is not honesty. It is fear wearing a moral mask. Silence is not emptiness. It is dominance without display. Remain unreadable or be managed. There is no third position. If you stayed until this point, you're not here by accident. Most people leave early because awareness costs comfort. This channel doesn't exist to motivate you. It exists to strip illusions and leave you with leverage. If this kind of thinking belongs in your head, not your feed, subscribe now. Don't like this video for approval. Like it to signal that this content shouldn't be buried. You don't need to comment, but if you do, one word is enough. Understood. The next video goes further into territory most men avoid publicly. Until then, say less, show less, and never let the wrong people read you.